mental health expert, Gunnar Kelsey Sharon.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Sharon, and when I was 18 years old, I decided to put the uniform on. I understood that I might die for my country, but what I didn't understand was that day, or one day, my own government would quietly offer to help me do it. I'm here today as a Canadian combat veteran. I live with post-traumatic stress disorder, a traumatic brain injury, major depressive disorder, and according to the doctors, treatment-resistant depression, along with hearing loss. That weight never really leaves. I am 100% disabled, even if I don't look like it. I've seen what war does, not just overseas, but long after you come home. And what I'm seeing now is something I never thought possible in Canada. Behind closed doors, in quiet conversations, veterans are being offered MAID, medical assistance in dying, not therapy, not recovery, not support, and not death, and not help, but death. And today, Senator Pamela Wallin is hosting a backdoor closed meeting with the pro-death cult Dying with Dignity. She's helping them lobby to convince more MPs that they should vote to kill more of the vulnerable, disabled Canadians starting in 2027. See, we're told this is compassion, and we're told it's choice. But when somebody's drowning in trauma and desperation, that's not a choice. That's coercion wearing a polite face. I've spoken with veterans who have reached out for help and asked for therapy, for hope, for treatment, and what they got instead was an offer to end their life. I've spoken to more veterans now, and the whistleblowers just keep coming. This is not one or two. This is well documented, over 20 and growing by the day. I know this because I report on it daily, and people seem to trust me with their stories. Imagine how deep that hopelessness must go when your own country looks at you and decides that death is the very best it can offer. This isn't hypothetical anymore. This isn't some dystopian book. This is the reality in Canada, and it's happening. And it's not just happening to veterans. People with disabilities like myself and others, with chronic pain, with depression, bad breakups, loss, poverty, they're all being told the same thing. You should give up and die. They're being nudged towards death because supporting them is seen as too expensive and inconvenient. This is the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. This is not compassion, especially when death is offered instead of care. This is a moral rot disguised as mercy, and this government is full of it. And while this is all happening, Canada still refuses to give veterans access to treatments that could actually save their lives. For example, like psychedelic-assisted therapy. Yes, controversial, but evidence-based, safe, and effective, used and studied around the world to treat PTSD and trauma. I know this because I am the only recipient in Canadian medical history to have access to regulated psilocybin outside of a clinical trial. I am living proof that it works. So we're told no, we're told to quietly suffer, or worse, we're told to die with dignity. That's not dignity, that's policy-driven despair, driven by sick people to hurt more. That's not healthcare, it's called surrender. And it sends a clear message: your life costs too much money. Veterans are dying, people with disabilities are dying, not because they want too much, but because they've become convinced their lives no longer matter by an entire healthcare system, lobbying groups, and frankly, this government. Canada doesn't even track veteran suicides. And I know this because today I'm testifying to just that. Think about that. We send people to war, and when they come home broken, we stop counting you. See, it's a lot easier to face the truth when you refuse to measure it. This is a government choosing death over duty every single day. Veterans and civilians don't need MAID. We need meaning. We need community. We need real treatment. We need a country that still believes that we are worth saving. So let's stop calling this choice, because it's not. And let's start calling it what it is: survival, if you're lucky. This isn't about dying with dignity. That's an oxymoron at best. Giving up and quitting when life gets hard. And trust me, I know what it feels like when life gets hard. It's about living a life with real dignity, and rolling back the expansion is the only way forward to do that. And I believe that we can do that with this bill.
My name is Sergeant Retired Mike Ruth. I'm a veteran of the Canadian Airborne Regiment, the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, and the Canadian Rangers. I have proudly served our country on tours within Afghanistan, Somalia, and Bosnia. Today I now serve to honor the legacy of my fallen brothers in arms and the rights and freedoms of all Canadians in yet another tour of duty called the Rude Awakening Tour. I am privileged to have many fellow Canadians just like you fighting for our future and our true North strong end. 3. I was poisoned by the Canadian military, as were many other of our soldiers and non-combat members of our military. During my deployments, I myself and thousands of other soldiers were issued and forced to take an anti-malarial drug called mefloquine. Mefloquine is a proven neurotoxin that is responsible for causing horrific and permanent brain damage, brain irregularities, resulting in severe psychological and physical issues within those who were forced to take the drug or face dismissal and discharge. Symptoms of mefloquine poisoning include the presence of suicidal ideation, something that I suffer from almost daily, violent tendencies, extreme nightmares, highly graphic night terrors, insomnia, a big part of my problem, and that's why, anyways, insomnia is very hard for me. Depression, anxiety, GERDs, and more. With and without the effects of combat-related PTSD, mefloquine has caused life to be a living hell for people like myself. The trend in veteran-related suicides has risen sharply within those who were exposed to this drug. It is not an exaggeration to state that with respect to our recent military, mefloquine has caused the deaths of more veterans by suicide than by combat or hostile enemies. I now ask each and every one of you to join me in the Rude Awakening and to deploy in a very important reconnaissance mission to preserve our eroding freedoms and the health of Canadians. There is a very good reason that a great number of our military members do not trust untried or untrialed experimental pharmaceuticals more so than even those within the civilian population. Just watch W5's Guinea Pig Soldiers, which I was a part of. Despite pharmaceutical companies, government health agencies, and family doctors proclaiming many drugs to be safe and effective, they are not. And that's the way mefloquine was. Please recall that these same once trusted authorities also deemed thalidomide, Vioxx, and hundreds of other approved yet very harmful drugs to be safe and effective. The emerging statistics and epidemiological studies of the devastating and dangerous effects of highly promoted, experimental, and untrialed injections of DNA-altering vaccines are now upon us. Millions of Canadians were forcefully coerced into becoming trusting lab rats and guinea pigs by political figures, by media members who were simply not qualified to do so. The options of naturopathic and holistic medicines present a much healthier and harm-free choice to all of us without harmful side effects or horror stories like mefloquine gives. As a professional observer with capable experience in threat assessment and the skill set to rapidly determine friend or foe, I have yet to witness anyone ever experience personal harm due to holistic, naturoceuticals or homeopathic medicines. However, we cannot say the same for many pharmaceuticals, from opioids to Ozempic, can we? Right? Many of our soldiers have been hooked on opioids thanks to many doctors, right? And then can't get off it or end up committing suicide, right? Okay, I became aware that the natural antibodies within the eggs of certain healthy ostriches with herd immunity were an effective treatment and a preventive medication against COVID, SARS, Omicron, Sonomas, and other viral variants. I was most impressed and I'm most optimistic for our future as I came to learn that these same antibodies found within healthy ostriches were also a risk-free anti-malarial option. I became emotionally overwhelmed as to why our government has not opted to pursue them as a truly safe and effective alternative, right? An alternative to what is sadly proven to be the lethal, catastrophic, and reckless consequences of methadone. As a veteran of several wars, I can state that all of us are now potential casualties within the war. Between billion-dollar big pharma corporations and the healthier alternatives of natural medicine, war is most often the setting for crimes against humanity, and we are clearly witnessing that today. Let us be most mindful that governments have actually killed more humans than any terrorist organization or criminal or known criminal entity ever has. Not one Canadian soldier, including myself, ever put on a uniform, served, or sacrificed their life and their limbs in order for any domestic authority or any foreign agency to tyrannically dictate the terms of our nation's freedoms, including our health and our wealth and our wellness choices. In times where foreign interference has become a matter of national security concerns, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency has repeatedly acted in a most treacherous way while under the foreign influences of the World Organization of Animal Health, which is actually based outside of Canada. The CFIA has been allowed to operate with impunity, a lack of transparency, right? That's why they unplug cameras and stuff, right? And an absence of accountability, right? Their insidious modus operandi functions under the false pretenses of providing safety, based upon mere suspicion, have resulted in the needless deaths of healthy animals and family farms. Where's our food security? Does that factor in at all? I don't think so, right? And it is no coincidence that the German phrase, which I cannot say, für ihr Sicherheit, whatever, in English, for your safety, was fearfully promoted as a reason for ushering trusting people onto trains at a certain time in our history. CFIA death squads are now digging burial pits as obliging police look on, just following orders, right? Some historical similarities are far too real. Some harsh lessons appear to have escaped our remembrance. Very shortly, we will commemorate the sacrifices of those who once went overseas to fight against fascists and foreign tyrants. Fascism, by definition, is the system of government whereby the means of production may be owned by individuals, but is most often rigidly and arbitrarily controlled by the government. For those of us with eyes to see, fascism is clearly upon us right now, right here in Canada and right here in Edgewood, hiding in plain sight. It is time to pick a side, to preserve the honor of our ancestors who picked a side and those who fought for our freedoms, or to stand idly watching foreign regulated government agents literally literally breaking the laws of our criminal code as they attempt to steal our hard-fought freedoms and our future to the benefit of others, right? And just to add, right, with my recent experience with the Legion here in Edgewood, right? But there's nothing more controversial than truth. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at war. It is a war that is like no other before this time in our history. The tactics of our adversaries and their treacherous enablers are much like carbon monoxide. Many do not see or sense them until it is far too late. It has been said that everyone wants to be a patriot until it is time to do something patriotic. The very men you gather to honor under the roofs of legions coming up and before our nation's cenotaphs and memorials are the very men who fought against the regime that made its citizens show their papers, often under the influences of fear, sponsored media, and government propaganda. That same regime also engaged in medical experiments upon its citizens. Sadly, and more recently, many branches of the Royal Canadian Legion made citizens show their papers to enter, merely to prove that they had participated in a medical experiment. This is shameful and often unspoken historical reality, one that was truly disrespectful of the very reasons for our ancestors' service, their remembrance, and the true symbolism of the poppy. Those who fail to stand for something will often fall for anything. As a gesture of true patriot love and genuine respect for our fallen, I now most literally ask those of you here today to rise up from your seats, right? And to show your support and to demonstrate the moral courage that is now required of you and every Canadian to rise up across our land and to stand on guard for thee. Thank you for your support. Love you all. Take care and thank you for your time.